Okay, and hello and welcome back to AM Language. This is the last lesson of the day, and in this lesson, we are going to look at pre-intermediate Unit 11. So pre-intermediate Unit 11. If you have the book, it's page 96. It's page 96, and the lesson is now shared. Excellent. Okay, so let's begin. Hope everyone is well. Let me know which level you guys are. We've had two other lessons today. We've had we've had beginners, we've had elementary students lessons, and today's the pre-intermediate one. But I can see that there are students from different levels joining us as well, which is great to see when we're doing YouTube videos like this, because it really helps people to learn well, because students can learn off each other in the live chat and comment section as well. Now, if you do have your pre-intermediate book, it's page 96, Unit 11. And in this unit, it's called Science and Nature. Science and nature. What we will be looking at when we are talking about science and nature, we're going to be looking at it in relation to what you might see in the news. So from that, we can look at something to do with the weather, for example. There's also the opportunity to talk about animals in this one as well. And so there's new language, new verbs, for example, that we can look at, as well as developing conversation. When it comes to grammar, there's also the past perfect. So in this lesson, I will try and make sure that in this 1 hour, I cover the most important aspects. Actually, this unit, I think in this unit, what I'm going to do is, in this hour, I'm going to concentrate mainly on grammar, because there's the past perfect and then there's the passive. And these two things are two bits of language that you guys really need to know. Now, on Friday's lesson, there is a lesson to do with that's pre-intermediate and intermediate. What I will do is I will take the two grammar points that we look at in today's lesson, and we will look at it in terms of developing it and how we can use it when writing. So on Friday's lesson with the pre-intermediate and intermediate lesson, we will look at how we take this language and we use it when writing. Today, we will look simply at how we can make it, when to make it, and how we can use it when speaking as well. So we'll look at the grammar. When it comes to words, we'll just have a little look at some words as well that can be useful. So let's start off with right. We're going to look at, in particular, we're going to look at question number 3 because of the type of words that we can look at and the way this language comes together. So in question number 3, the first line says, it asks you to think of what might happen when a huge storm hits. Now, just to think of a huge storm, let's try and paraphrase this language. It's a very good idea that when you come across language, you automatically try and see how you can rewrite the language. So say the same thing in a different way. So the question is, so the sentence is, um, let's say two things that might happen. Let's go with this. Can you think? I need to make sure I'm writing. Can you think of two things that might happen? Two things that might happen when a huge storm hits. Now, to take the last bit, we've got huge storm. Okay, a huge storm hits. Now, huge is a word you might have heard of already because Donald Trump likes to use the word a lot. He likes to say everything is huge. It's really huge. Probably the hugest. But what other ways can we say this? So huge is obviously means big. But big is not necessarily a new word. So what other words can we use? Well, huge means, obviously, we've got huge, we've got big, and then when we're talking about something to do with science and something that is on a big scale, we can use this. A serious, okay? In this context, now serious has, you can use serious in many different contexts, but if you are talking about something that is scientific and it is big, then it is serious. So you could use serious. So can you think of two things that might happen when a serious storm? Now, alternatives, you've got hits, which is connection or arriving in a place. So you've got hits, strikes, because hit and strike are synonyms. This is both when we're talking about when a storm comes, and this is also physical. So if you're punching someone, that's a hit, but it's also a strike. So we can use hits and strikes. So we can say, can you think of two things that might happen when a serious storm strikes or when a huge storm hits? So what are the two things that can happen? Well, if a huge storm hits, obviously there could be some damage to buildings, to roads, and there might be some, let's say, power cuts as well. Power cuts. A power cut is when the electricity stops. Um, hello, hello, Hario. Good afternoon, Thunder. Yes, that actually is something that does happen. The windy blowing. Ooh, close, 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 close. Marcella, hello again. The wind. Windy is an adjective, and then we've got blow. But you're talking about the wind blows. So here you just need to go with the noun and then the verb. The wind blows, or the wind is blowing. Good. You can also say strong winds. For example, there will be strong winds. There'll be a lot of thunder and lightning. So there's lots of things there. Let's look at the next one. Two things when the government might fund research into. Well, this is very, very appropriate for now. So at the moment, governments are now here funding. I'm going to change it a bit. Research into COVID-19. So what do we first mean? Fund. Fund is to do with money. now when we are using it as a verb, so fund as a verb means to give money. Fund as a noun is money, but how can I describe a fund? Let's put it like this: it's money, it's an account. So fund as a noun is like an account for something. So for instance, you can say to fund someone, I need to fund this project. Or you can say I have funds, means I have an account with money in it. So you can have a university fund, you can have a research fund, you can have a charity fund. For example, if you have money and you want to give it to charity, you have it in a fund. You have an account where this money is for charity. But to use it as a verb, you fund, or governments are funding. So in this case, I like financing. Oh, like financing. Yes, similar. If you use it as a verb because you can finance a project. Actually, to fund a project. So Marcelo, well done, actually, yes. When we use it as a verb, not as a noun, it has the same meaning. They are synonyms. So you finance a project, you fund a project. So at the moment, a lot of governments are funding or financing research into COVID-19, so they're giving scientific communities, research centers, money to research into COVID-19. And that's another thing. You always research into something. That's the preposition with research. You research into something. You research into COVID-19. You research into cancer. You research into AIDS, for example. And that's one of the main prepositions you would use. Or you can, yes, we use it like this. So governments are funding research into COVID-19. Let's look at the next one. Two other animals, birds that could become extinct. Now, animals that can become, I have my own fund. Yes, Maria, to say I have my own fund is correct. You can always give that fund a specific type of fund. And I would encourage you to do that, to make it specific, because otherwise it might just be I have my own account. But if you are talking about money that you are saving for something, then you can say I have my own funds for university. I have my own funds to invest in my home. I have my own traveling funds. I have my own charity funds, for example. So if you're going to use it as a noun, you put the type of fund before, you put the other noun before, like charity fund, traveling fund, university fund, business fund, for example. So that is how you can use it. Good sentence, though. Now, moving on to the next one. Okay, animals that can become extinct. Extinct. Now, I should say this. First of all, when you have EX at the start, it doesn't always mean it's an X. In this case, it's an ick sound. Ick. Extinct. So EX can make an ig sound. It can make an ig sound as well. Now, you might have just thought I said the same sound, ick and ig. If you want to know the difference in the sound, take your hand. So you've got k and you have g. Okay. Now, K is soft and G is hard. K is unvoiced, G is hard. If you take your hand and you put it over here, just where your voice box is, and you're just here, and you just put your hand there. If you go K, okay, like cat, cat, or if you say cat, kit, kitten, kettle, kitchen, the K sound is soft. Your voice box does not move. If you go with a G sound, G, 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 your voice box moves. So if you say, for instance, garage or garden or ground, G, your voice box moves. And that's the difference to here. So EX, it can make a hard sound and it can make a soft sound. In this case, with the word extinct, extinct, it is a soft sound. Extinct, extinct, extinct. So animals that can become extinct. If an animal is extinct, it no longer, there are no more animals of that species or that sort, for example. So a typical example, the tiger. At the moment, there is a worry because there are more, for example, koalas. Yes, at the start of the year, we might not have said koalas, but now, because of the fires in Australia, koala bears could become extinct. Tigers in the wild in India, for example, could become extinct. The white rhino, I think, has the white rhino become extinct? It might have. I know that there was one type of rhino that has become extinct. There's also the white giraffe that might, I know that might become extinct. Animals that are no longer exist. Next, we've got find a cure. Well, very appropriate for what we're talking about today with COVID-19, to find a cure to something. Find a cure to, find a cure or find a cure for something as well. We need to find a cure to cancer, for example. We need to find a cure. We need to find a cure for cancer. We need to find a cure for cancer. We need to find a cure for for you. Sorry, we need to find a cure for you, and that's the difference actually. So when you're talking about the type of disease or the problem, usually we say we need to find a cure to cancer. Yes, Hadeo, we need to find a cure to COVID-19. Absolutely, yes, we do. Or we need to find a cure for you, meaning we need to find the cure for your disease. And that is the difference, typically speaking, when we to the actual problem or for the person. And cure means solve, the antidote to a problem, the cure for something in this case, or for someone, sorry, the cure for someone. And there probably are some exceptions where you can probably, when it doesn't matter if you use to or for. But those are the two prepositions you can use for cure. Cure to something or cure for something. That's the preposition for cure. In this case, two things they're still trying to find a cure for. Okay, we're still looking for a cure for it, for example. So there we've got some more examples. Next one, two other things you can launch apart from a rocket. Okay, we need to launch a rocket. Let's start with that. Launch a rocket, it means a rocket is on the ground and it goes up and up into space or up into the sky. Now, you can launch a rocket, you can launch a missile. You can launch a missile. You can, other forms of technology, you can launch a website. You can launch a business. So launch is a physical movement of, let's say, a rocket, but it can also be for a business idea. And launch in that case means to start. So let's go through it. Launch as into set off, actually. So launch and set off a rocket, a missile, and then you have launch as into start something, a business. To launch a website, for example. So the word launch has different meanings depending on the context. And we've got ban. Okay, so for instance, at the moment, there is a ban. Governments can ban people from going outside at the moment. So governments can ban. I can launch, Marcella, I can launch a campaign. Yes, you can definitely launch a campaign, Marcella. Well done. In the US at the moment, you've got the US elections. So they have launched their presidential campaigns. Going back to the word ban, governments can ban people from going outside. Ban simply means to stop something happening. The past of ban, by the way, it's a regular verb. So you've got ban, and then you have banned, ban and banned, ban and banned. And finally, spread diseases. Right. Well, spread the coronavirus, for example. Stop the spread of. You might have seen this at the moment. Stop the spread of the virus, for example. I think you can probably understand what spread means, but spread is when, if we're talking about the coronavirus, one person gets infected, and then that person passes it to two more people. That two more people quickly become 6, then 12, then 24, and then so on and so forth. And that's what we mean by spread, when a virus is growing and going from different people to different people. In this case, coronavirus has spread across the whole world. So that's what spread. And a disease, well, you've got a virus, you have a disease. Cancer is a disease, for example. Coronavirus is a virus, but it comes under the medical name for something that can medically harm you, hurt you, for example. Okay. I should say, by the way, I just used the word hurt and harm. Harm is a synonym of hurt. Harm is a synonym of hurt. Okay, so we have now looked at some of this language. Let's move on to the first bit of grammar, which is the past perfect. Now, certain things you need to know about the past perfect. 1, we use it a lot in the UK. 2, in the US, not nearly as much. It doesn't mean they don't use it, but it's not part of the way they use their language in the same way as we do in the UK. But why in the UK do we like to use the past perfect? Simple. This is when we are talking about two finished actions in the past. We are not telling you a story of what happened next. We are telling you we're telling you about something, two things in the past, and the order is important because of the emphasis. What is it that you want to explain to the person? Is it action one or action two? So, for example, I've got two actions here, finished actions. Now, my go-to example is to do with, let's say, police, for example. So, I had arrived at the house before the police. Now we've got showed up, which simply means got there. Showed up means got there. Okay. Here I've got two actions, me arriving and the police arriving. Okay. Now, the reason why I'm using the past perfect is because I'm saying that there are two finished actions, and I want to explain that the important point I want to make in my sentence is that I was there before the police. If I was to write this in a simple language, I would say, I got to the house before the police. Now, this is how I would write the sentence with the same meaning using using the past simple. Now, so I can, whatever you want to say in the past perfect, you can probably say in the past simple with just two past simple sentences. And that's what American English well, that's what people in America normally do. They like to put two past simple sentences together. But in the UK, we don't. We like to use the past perfect because there's extra emphasis involved because of the order. Marcella has written, I arrived at home. I realized that my aunt had eaten my food. Okay, that is a really good attempt, to be honest, Marcella. But we're missing something. We're missing a time we're missing a time marker, and it's what I'm about to write. So if I go back to my previous example, let's say I want to change the order around. I need to use by the time. Let's say action two. Let's say I'm going to put action two before action one. So, Marcella, in your example, you have said, I arrived at home. I realized that my aunt had eaten my food. Your aunt eating your food is action one, and you've put action two first. So, when you go for action two, this is the formula. You've got a time marker. Your time marker is by the time plus action two plus action one. Okay, all in the past. So, construction by the time plus past perfect plus past simple. That is the structure you are working on. So, by the time the police arrived, okay, by the time the police arrived, by the time the police arrived, I had left, for example. The police arrived, I had left, for example. So here I'm putting the past perfect at the end. Equally, I can say, by the time I had arrived, the police So by the time I had arrived, the police, well, I could go with the past continuous, were talking. By the time I had arrived, the police were already talking to John. In your case, Marcella, by the time I got home, my aunt had already eaten the cake. So we've got this, and you can, when making this, it's that you're trying to explain sometimes, like, what you have to think. What do you want to put first, action 1 or action 2? And that's what you need to think about. You can mix the past perfect with, when creating a sentence, you can go past perfect, past continuous, past perfect, past simple, past perfect. That formula works. You can play around with that. But we need to think of a time marker, and one time marker that we often use is by the time. So, for example, if we have a little look at some of the examples here, the World Wildfire Fund had asked the fishermen to let scientists have the body, but the fishermen instead insisted on using it. Okay, so we've got this example here. We can say, if we're looking at page 101, we can say okay, so this is number 9. We say the World Wild Fund had asked the fishermen to let scientists have the body, but now here you don't need the fishermen twice. They. You should be using they. The book here, I'm a bit disappointed with this, actually. You don't need to be repeating the subject of your, you don't need to be repeating the object over here. The World Wild Fund had asked the fishermen. Fishermen in that first part is the object. You don't need to be repeating the object. We know who the object is. Therefore, you can replace fishermen with they, but they insisted on using it. We don't know the context, but never mind. Okay. So that would be how the answer would be for that question. Now I invite you guys to look through to look through number 9, because here it's trying to ask you questions like, what is it trying to talk about? So, for instance, if we look at what we've got here, you've got 2 sentences, A and B, and it's what it asks you. Like it links it to 1, 2, and 3. So it's just telling you what I've already told you. We use the past perfect to emphasize that something happened before or after another past action. In this case, usually we are going to use the past perfect to emphasize that something happened before another action, for example. We usually don't usually use the past perfect with other verbs in the past simple. Sorry, say that again. What does it say? We don't usually use the past perfect with other verbs in the past simple. No, we usually do use the past perfect with other verbs in the past simple as well. When we describe actions in order that they happened, we usually use the past simple. If you're describing something in order, that's when we'll probably use the past simple. If we're saying that action 2 happens before action 1, then we're more likely to use the past perfect. This is the general rule. It's not to say you can't do the other way around, but generally speaking, action 2, then action 1. And I think it's the best way to approach it as well. Action 2, then action 1. If we were to make more examples today, we could say, let's think if we can relate one to what's happening in the world at the moment. So, for example, by the time Italy had issued a lockdown, the virus. So by the time Italy had issued a lockdown, the virus was rampant. Now that's a good word, rampant. Let me just explain what I mean by rampant. If a virus is rampant, if you can probably guess what I mean by it. If a virus is rampant, it means it's exploding. So rampant is when something is exploding and is just moving so quickly, exploding, moving really quickly, for example. So I'm going to give you guys now the opportunity to try and write your own past perfect. What I will do is I am going to give you a brief context, and I'd like you to try and come up with your answer. So, for example, let's go with okay, got an idea. I will write the sentence in a with two past simple, and I'd like you to rewrite the sentence in a past perfect. Got home, there was no more pizza. Okay, so if I were to write the sentence in a past simple, it would be, when I got home, there was no more pizza because my friends ate it. Now, I've written this in a past simple. What I would like you guys to do is change it for a past perfect. You will notice that when I got home is actually action 2. So the order of things is already there. You've got action 2, and then you've got action 1. Now, in terms of trying to make this, if you want to use the past perfect in the first part of the sentence, this is where you'd have to use by the time I had got home. If you don't want to use it in the first part, you can actually use it in the second part as well. So you don't need to put the past perfect first. You don't need to just to remind you guys, I'm not sure if I said it, had plus past participle. Participle is the third form of the verb. like had eaten, for example. So I'm going to give you a minute. See if you can take that sentence and rewrite it in as a past perfect. And like I said, you can use the past perfect for action 2 or action 1. The order is already correct. Action 2, then action 1, and I would leave it like that. If you're going to put the action 2 in the past perfect, then you would need to use by the time I got home. If you're going to use action 1 as the past perfect, then you don't need the time marker. Right, let's see. Hario. By the time I had got home, my friends had eaten the pizza. Eating the pizza. So close, Hario. So close. I'm going to leave. I'm not going to write the correct answer just yet. I'm going to give everyone else another chance just to write their answers, and then I'll give you the answer. You might be thinking, can I put in 2 past perfect sentences? Oh, Hario has changed his answer to eaten. Yes. By the time I had got home, my friends had eaten the pizza. Yes, that is perfectly good. That's perfectly good. And to answer your question, can I use the structure twice? If you want to, yes. Having said that, if you were to be, let's say, grammatically 100% correct, by the time I got home, my friends had eaten the pizza. That would be the correct answer, and that is the answer I was looking for. That's one of the answers you could have. So by the time I got home, my friends had eaten the pizza. So I'd like to point out here, with the first example from Hario, I would like to congratulate Hario because he got very close to the correct answer, and very importantly, I could understand what he was saying. So even though it wasn't 100% right, the meaning was good enough for me to understand what he was saying. I could follow what he was saying, but the correct grammatical structure here, we've got action 1 in the past. We've got action 2 in the past simple and action 1 in the past perfect. By the time I got home, my friends had eaten the pizza. By the time I got home, my friends had eaten the pizza. That would be the correct answer. If you wanted to switch it around, for instance, action 2 being the past perfect, when I had arrived home, I found the pizza eaten. Okay, but now I'm doing something a little bit naughty here. I'm kind of introducing the second part as a little bit of a passive. So that's me being naughty, really. I'm moving ahead. Sorry. Anyway, we've now had a look at the past perfect. We will continue to look at the past perfect on Friday and the passive. So with 15 minutes left, I'm now just going to introduce you to the passive, and then on Friday I will go over the past perfect and the passive again, and I will show you how to write it. I will give some good examples as well. So let's quickly look at the passive, and in this case, this is just looking at the past and the present passive. Simply put, you've got your subject plus, so for passive voice, okay, passive voice, you've got your subject, and you've got active voice. So let me show you this way. Active voice, you've got subject plus verb to be, plus verb plus object, okay, such as Nokia make phones. Okay, now when it comes to passive, the object phones becomes the subject. We move it around, we put it at the front of the sentence, so we now have subject plus verb to be plus passive verb. Okay, so and simply put, this is the verb in its third form. The verb in its third form, or the past participle plus object. So now we would have this, these, okay, well, phones are made by Nokia. And that's how you do it in the present. In the past, we can say, let's say, discover. So, let's say, we've got an example here. Maria, when I forgot my keys on the door, my brother had found in living room is correct. Sorry for late. Okay. I'm just going to continue this, and then I will come back to your question at the end, Maria. Okay, so I will come back to your question at the end. Marcella, phones are made by Nokia. Yes, that is correct, Marcella. Phones are made by Nokia. If we want to go into the past, we could say, Nokia 3210 was made in 2001, for example. So that's another example of a passive voice in the past. We then, instead of is made, was made, was created, was discovered. And that's what you are doing. The reason being is you're not focusing on who did it, you're focusing on the what. And that's the important thing. That is when we create a passive. It's not about who, it's the what. It's the object of what the normal thing would be. Laptops are made by companies. Maria, you are 100% correct. That is a passive. Laptops are made by companies. Let's say next would be, well, if we're talking about the coronavirus, we could say the virus was discovered in China. That's where it was found. We're not really talking about who discovered it, who found it. That's not the point. The point is the virus. It's the what. Hario, America was discovered by Christopher Columbus. Yes, that would be a passive. That's perfect. Now, you can make the passive in the present, in the past, present simple, present perfect, past simple, past perfect, and present continuous and past continuous. You can make it in the conditional sentences as well. So you can do all of those things. If I were to use it in a if we were to make it into the future, for instance, use it to do like talking about the future, we could say Mars will be explored in 2030, for example. So that's how we can use it in the future. Mars will be explored in 2030. We're not saying who will explore it. We're just saying the action will happen. Marcella, the cat was feeded, not quite. Fed is the past of feed is fed. So really good attempt, Marcella. But feed, unfortunately, is not a regular verb. It is an irregular verb. So the cat was fed. The cat was already fed. The cat had already been fed when I got home. I should add, talking about the past perfect, if you want to use the passive in the past perfect, you've got had been. So that would be an example. The cat, sorry, I wrote that badly. The cat had already been fed when I got home, for example. The dog had gone to bed when I got home. The dog had gone to bed when I got home. My mum had, sorry, I didn't write a passive. I said I was going to write a passive. The dog had been walked, or the dog had been fed by the time I had got by the time I got home. The electricity. Oh, actually, here we go. The plane had been. Let's go with this. Okay, the room had been cleaned by the time I arrived. That is how you make it with a past perfect. You go with subject. So past perfect passive. Past perfect perfect passive. So we've got subject plus had plus. You've got your option of an adverb like already. Been plus verb in its past participle. So past participle verb plus the rest of your sentence. Okay, so such as the room had been cleaned by the time I arrived. The dog had been fed by the time I arrived. The computer had been fixed by the start of the meeting. Hario, the COVID vaccine will be made after December. The COVID vaccine will be made after December. Yeah, that's good, Hario. Very good sentence. You can play around with that preposition as well after, because it could be the COVID vaccine will be made by December, after December, before December. You've got a few ways of adding it, but Hario, very well done there. That's a good sentence. Now, let me go back to a previous sentence that someone asked me about. Here we go. So we have Maria. You wrote, when I forgot my keys on the door, my brother had found in my living room. Is it correct? Now, nearly in some ways, and in other ways, not quite. There's a lot of ideas here. So we need to make sure, what is the most important bit of that sentence? One, you forgot your keys and your brother found them in your living room. So you would say, I had forgotten. My brother, or let's say my brother had found the keys. Okay, let's go with this way, okay. My brother had found the keys. My brother had found the keys after I forgot them. My brother had found the keys after I had forgotten them, or after I left them in the living room. So that would be your answer, Maria. That's how you could write your sentence. My brother had found the keys after I had forgot them. So that is how you could write that sentence. Maria, you've written something else. The concert had been very cool. Cool, as in, yeah, good fun. yes, the concert had been very cool, but it's not quite a finished sentence. We think there's more there. So you could say the concert uh, had been. Um, Actually, now I'm thinking. My instinct was yes, but maybe I'm wrong. The concert had been very cool. The concert had been very. No, I'm sorry, Maria. I got it wrong with your last question here. Your last sentence. The concert had been very cool. That is not a passive, because cool is you're using cool as an adjective, and it's not a verb. So the concert had, for instance, the concert had been cancelled. You could say. Uh, the concert had been cancelled because of the virus. I should add, we don't always need to know the cause of the passive. So we can say the concert with the passive. The concert, for instance, the concert is cancelled. We can say the concert is cancelled in the present simple. We don't need to say why, and that's the other thing. We don't need to always say why with the passive. Yes, my concert was cancelled. Yes, I imagine your concert would have been cancelled. Okay, guys, so that brings us to the end of today's lessons. Now, for you guys past, pre-intermediate and intermediate, I will continue to look at the passive and past perfect with you on Friday, and I will also make sure that we look at together how do we make sentences with these. So we've been looking at it in different ways on their own, but we will continue the development of this. Hario, the concert had been cool. It was cancelled for the virus. No. If you're not making a passive, let's assume you make. Okay, I see what you're doing here. Okay, the concert had been cool. Here we go. This is how to write it. The concert had been enjoyable, but later it was cancelled. It was later cancelled. Concert had been enjoyable, but it was later cancelled. We're assuming here that this is a concert that goes on for days and days and days and days. That's how you can do this. Richard, each charter is 1 hours for week. Marcella, can you write that sentence again? Because I don't completely understand. Should each, do you mean level? Richard, each chapter. Do you mean chapter? I'm guessing it's chapter. 1 hour of a week. Well, to put it this way, due to the our limited ability, yes, we're trying to. I'm trying to take the most important things in a unit, in a chapter, and look at them with you. To say it's going to be in 1 week, no, not necessarily. Sorry, in 1 hour, no, more 2 hours because of the next lesson. So the answer to your question, Richard, is if do we just cover 1 unit per hour? So is 1 hours per chapter? 1 hour per chapter. Okay. I'm not going to say it's 1 hour per chapter. I'm going to say it's more like 2 hours per chapter. But I'm not going into the whole chapter. That's the thing. I'm just taking the most important things from a chapter. What I do ask you guys to do, because at the same time, I'm using a lot of my own examples. Please try and answer. Try and do some of the exercises. Try and do some of the exercise. Yes, do some of the exercises. And in the comments section or on Facebook, in the comments section, give me your answers, and I will look at your answers and I will comment and I will let you know if the answers are which answers are good, which answers are correct, which answers need to be re-looked at again. I recommend that, and I do suggest still go through because, for instance, there's a lot to cover here. There's also like a really good reading. It's you've got and you've got more reading. We can't do the listening, unfortunately. So there's so many things you can do in your own spare time. So I do encourage everyone, please try and please try and continue to study in your own time. If you have any questions, or you want to share answers, just share them with me on YouTube, in the comment section. I will look at them and I will let you guys know. I can give you more help in the comment section. And guys, if you have any specific questions, don't forget we will be looking at the same language, the past perfect and the present, the past perfect and the passive voice in Friday's lesson. So if you have questions for me, just throw questions for me on Friday as well, and I will do my best to answer. Thank you so much, guys, for coming to all the lessons today. I know some of you have been here morning, afternoon, and early evening. Have a really good evening. Have a safe. Hope you're all safe and well, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much. Please like and share the video. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care and bye for now. I do know that this was a difficult topic, past perfect and passive. So I will dedicate more time to it. And seriously, any questions, put them in there and I will either answer them typing or I will answer them in our next YouTube video as well. Bye for now.